Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to see you. I'm happy to be talking today about the toolkit we use to build businesses, the toolkit that we give to entrepreneurs. How we teach entrepreneurship has changed over the past few years. The way we teach entrepreneurship has been heavily influenced by some very prestigious schools in the United States, primarily schools in Boston, Massachusetts, and in California. But I've been thinking about how we can empower women and girls in the Caribbean and Latin America and around the world. How can we empower women and girls through entrepreneurship? We need a different kind of toolkit for these entrepreneurs. The toolkits that we have may work very well for people on the East and the West Coast of the United States, but I think that they are not sufficient for global entrepreneurship on the scale that I have in mind, because I'm thinking big. So let me introduce myself. I'm Brandy Nagel. I work at Georgia Tech. I'm part of the Atlanta Minority Business Development Agency's Business Center located at Georgia Tech, and I'm also part of the Economic Development Lab. Both of these groups are part of the Enterprise Innovation Institute. I know that's a whole lot of names, right? All of that together, those groups are part of the Economic Development Outreach arm of Georgia Tech. So I've been working with entrepreneurs in Georgia, in the United States, in the Caribbean, and around the world since 2011. I started a little bit before that, but really my involvement started in 2011, the way I think of it, because that's when I got involved with the Lean Startup movement. And I've been thinking about this new toolkit, a toolkit that's inclusive and empowering for women and girls around the world, and really for all kinds of entrepreneurs. But of course, I have a special place in my heart for women and girls. If we keep doing what we've been doing, the way that we teach entrepreneurship, we're going to continue to have small successes and small wins and slow progress. This new toolkit that I've been thinking about, it contemplates 4 different tools for teaching and learning, and 3 of the tools are really personal, and one of them is very universal. I think about entrepreneurship as something that humans have been engaged in since the very beginning of time, right? There were marketplaces, there were tradespeople. But the way we think of entrepreneurship now is more than just making a living. We think about it as something that empowers people. We think about it as a way of building wealth, of building something better for the family or just for ourselves. So let me tell you about these tools. Let's see here. Let me share my screen just a moment. Here we go. All right, so here we go. Here's the map of the United States, East and West Coast highlighted. And here's the map. This is what we're going for, is this toolkit that serves the whole world. All right, so what's the first tool? The first tool is time. And here's what I'm thinking about for this tool. Every entrepreneur has to understand how time works. And I don't mean telling time. It may seem simple, but culturally and locally, our understanding of time is very personal and it's very cultural. It's completely based on what we've learned, where we've grown up. And in some parts of the world, time is abundant. I learned that in India. I went to India to teach a class, and one of the professors there said, "But Brandy, time is abundant." And typical citizen of Atlanta, Georgia, and that is not how my brain works. Time is not abundant. I am time starved, as are most of my colleagues and most of my friends. An entrepreneur who understands how time works can prioritize, can focus, can make plans, can arrange for things better than someone who has no sense of time and how it works. And let me give you an example. If you've ever met an entrepreneur who has no sense of time, your number one clue is that they keep missing opportunities. They miss opportunities to connect with other people. They miss opportunities to learn, to grow. They miss opportunities to get customers, because time and opportunities are closely tied together. Now, this is not saying that you have to be fast, because that understanding of entrepreneurship equals speed, success equals speed, that's totally from the East and West Coast. That's not what I'm referring to. It's more about pace and optimizing the waiting time that is just a common part of being a business owner. The next tool I want to talk about is money and how money works. And it's easy. Money comes, money goes, right? Buy low, sell high. My dad taught me that. But this is an area where traditional business education has done a good job. Most business owners understand profit and loss. They understand the difference between sales and revenue. That's all great. And there's books written about it. But that's not exactly what I mean. Entrepreneurs don't have to understand like high finance, but I think it's important to understand how money motivates people and how to value their own time. Entrepreneurs need to learn how to value their own time, and then think about that in the picture of, if I do this, there's an opportunity cost for that. The trade-offs that we make as entrepreneurs. There's a saying in the Atlanta startup ecosystem, and that is, if your startup is not making money, you don't have a business, you've got a hobby. And I think that's true, although a lot of great businesses started as hobbies or as a passion project. That's not a bad thing. But to be able to sustain a business over time, it has to be profitable. There's got to be money in it to keep the business going. And most business owners, they want to grow and they want to scale. And for that, you've got to have profitability. An entrepreneur who understands how money works can use it to build relationships, build the business, and reduce stress, just make life easier. I don't believe that money buys happiness, but money does buy options. And having options is a really good thing for an entrepreneur, that they can figure out what's the best path to take forward. The entrepreneur who doesn't understand how money works is going to sell her time for too little money, and she's going to get stuck in a business that's unprofitable and probably not very rewarding. Before COVID hit, I spoke to a woman entrepreneur she was just wearing herself out. She was exhausted. She wanted to be a low-cost provider and cheaper than her competition, and that's okay. She also wanted to reward her most loyal customers and the customers that had been with her for a long time. But her most loyal customers were her least profitable ones, and that's a huge problem. She was making no money. In fact, she was losing money in her business. And the customers were loyal to her because she was cheaper than any other option. So of course they were going to stay with her. She also had a heart of gold, and she was very oriented towards customer service and delivering good quality. She was working as a waitress on the weekends to subsidize, to make enough money to stay in business. She was exhausted. She did not understand how money works. Fortunately, I had a great conversation with her. She went to the dollar store and she got one of those accounting tablets, you know, the pieces of paper with the lines for accounting. And she and I sat and we worked on it together and evaluated what is her time worth. And she reluctantly decided to raise her prices. I think the problem there was really that she did not value herself. She was afraid to raise her prices because she might lose customers. In a minute, we're going to talk more about passion projects and how several entrepreneurs have turned what they love into a business. But I want to talk about the third tool. And this is people, understanding how people work. And there's two sides of this. It's essential to understand your customers better than the competition does. That is absolutely essential. This is one of the most important lessons we've learned from the lean startup practice that came out of California. Customer discovery gives us insights, not just for the products, but for the whole business. If we're doing it right, we're not just asking about the features and benefits of the product or the service, but we're thinking about the entire business and how it's structured, how to build a business that can really deliver value to customers. So that's one part of understanding people. But the other part is understanding how to form a team, because most businesses won't grow if it's just one person. There's just a limit there, how much it can grow. So the business owner has got to recruit, they've got to hire, they've got to train a team and retain them. All of that together makes the difference between a really successful, thriving business and a complete headache. Developing a team that can work together and be efficient, that can add to your profitability and how quickly the business can grow. It can contribute to customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, and retention. And creating a high-performing team, that's a rare art. And that is the difference between a company that just takes off and a company that ends up staying small. The third tool that I want to mention, the fourth tool I want to mention is risk. So the other three were all very personal, right? Time, money, people, very personal. This one is universal. Risk. Risk is part of the definition of what entrepreneurs do. And understanding risk is what allows entrepreneurs to be bold and do something new and innovative. It's how fortunes are made. My observation working with entrepreneurs around the world is that some entrepreneurs are really good at identifying risk. In fact, I worked with entrepreneurs and small business owners in Clarkston, Georgia. Clarkston is a small town. It's about 1 square mile. And it is the most diverse square mile in the United States because it is a community for refugees. So people are coming to Clarkston from all over the world. The last I heard, there were about 80 countries represented in Clarkston. And it has been a community for refugees for many, many years. The people who are there have generally lived through some pretty difficult circumstances, and that can be, some of them are coming out of war zones or areas of oppression. Some of them have come from a community where a natural disaster has hit. And these people are very good at identifying risk and then diffusing it. And this is actually a superpower for entrepreneurs. So I have an exercise that I want to share with you. I'm going to stop my screen for a moment. I'm going to suggest that you take paper and pencil and do this with me. We're going to create a risk profile. So I'm going to pull out my dry erase board here. Let's go through this together. This is something very easy. And with some of the teams that I mentor, we do this exercise every single week because it's that easy and it gives us such a good insight into what's going on within the organization. So we always start with a 4-square. And what we do here is, can we build it in 12? Can we build the thing we need to build for the business in 12 months? And then over here, we put the team. Do we have the team that we need for the next 12 months? And here we have money. How much money do we need for the next 12 months to be able to be successful? And here we have customers. Sometimes we also call this market. Do we understand exactly who our customers are and what they want? Do we know exactly how much money they want to pay and where they want to purchase this product or service? So here's the practice. We always put the date here, August 2021, right? Because we want to keep it as a snapshot of how the risk moves over time. And we think about it step by step. So if I think about, can I build this thing in the next 12 months? What I mean by that is, if it's a consulting business, can we build the practice? If I'm going to sell fruits and vegetables, can I get all the permits and the licenses and the location in the next 12 months? Whatever I need to put together in the next 12 months, can I do it? If the answer is yes, I can do it, then the risk is very low. We would just mark there. But if it's something that seems very difficult or it's going to be time consuming, then we would put it up higher. This is to show how high the risk is, right? Do we have the team that will help us get this done in the next 12 months? You know, a lot of entrepreneurship is micro-entrepreneurship, or what I also have heard called recently, non-employee entrepreneurship, non-employee businesses, which means I can do what I need to do without any full-time employees because I've either got volunteers to help me, which might be family and friends, or I've got people who just work with me part-time, or they work on contract. But most entrepreneurs, if they want to grow, they need to have a team because it's a little bit too much work for just one person. So you just mark where that risk level might be. If you've got a complete team, the risk is small. If you need to hire a lot of people, then the risk would be higher. And then money. How much money do you need for the next 12 months? Because all of this is thinking about the next 12 months, okay? So how much money do you need? Now, if it's a medical device, you're going to need a ton of money, right? And then the risk is going to be enormous, and you'll mark, I need a ton of money, which is down here. For a lot of us, though, for a small business, we just need a little bit more than what we have at the moment, which means, you know, it's right there, maybe. And then here's the big question about customers. Do you know exactly who the customer is and what they want to buy and why they're going to buy from you instead of your competitor? And that almost always is a huge risk. In fact, the most common risk profile that I see looks something like that. And I like connecting these 4 dots because then I see the risk expressed as an area. It's the risk is the area under the curve. All right, so that's the first way of looking at it, right? Now, the next idea is, how do we reduce the risk? How do we bring this down into 0? Because that is the ideal. What we want is 0 risk, which is not, it's theoretically possible, but not realistically possible. But how do we reduce the risk to be as small as possible? Well, here's how I think it works. when you do the customer discovery and you find out who your customers are, you start to either, one, get customers, get paying customers, and get revenue coming in, or two, you get letters of intent or purchase orders or whatever. And that starts to attract money. When you're certain that you have a good understanding of your customer, you are more likely to get money, whether that is a grant, a loan, investment, or customer funded business, which is my favorite. So when you reduce this risk, then you actually reduce that risk. And when you've got money, you can hire the team that you need to build out the business. And that reduces that risk. And that makes it possible to build the business faster. All of this is about time, money, and people, right? Time, money, people, and people. This is just one way of looking at the risk profile for a business. I really love this exercise. I'm going to set this down. I love this exercise because it brings clarity. And if you're working with a small team, for example, not just a single business owner, but a small team, it's a great way for the team to all come together and focus, having one vocabulary, having one way to think about it. And so when someone says, we ought to be out here raising money, you can see the evidence is right here. That's not your greatest risk. This is. So start here, and then this and that, those two things come next. It's a great activity. I'm going to include this exercise in my slides because I did that without slides. But if you ask me for the slides, I'll send them to you. And there's an explanation of that activity. All right, I'm going to share my screen again because I love having visuals for you. All right, there. So there's a couple of slides that explain that in detail. All right, so those are our 4 tools. We've got time, money, people, risk. That's great, right? That's what we needed. All right, here's the next thing though. This is something that it's not easy to teach, but it's possible to help people uncover in themselves. And what's made me think about this is, I can share my experience or what I've learned. I can share that with an entrepreneur in the Caribbean, and I can say, here are the principles and here are the best practices for how to manage your team or how to get customers, but nothing can replace her experience, her knowledge, her insight into her community, into her marketplace. That local information is incredibly valuable. That local information about the community, that plus self-awareness, those two things, those are the differentiator between if a company might succeed or fail. So self-awareness comes in a bunch of different ways. One way is to say, I know what my comfort zone is, and I can identify the fears and the doubts, the anxieties that I'm facing, and I can break through them, and I can go forward and be successful. For women, sometimes self-awareness means questioning what you've been taught as a young person. There's this idea that innovation is a competitive advantage in the corporate world, but I think this self-awareness is the competitive advantage for entrepreneurs. And I mentioned passion projects earlier. I want to come back to that. I have a couple of startups and small businesses I want to share with you. They're all Caribbean and all female owners, I'm really happy to say. And most of these started as passion projects. So this is Candid Society. And I love this. This young woman has started this business. She is at the intersection in terms of the values of the brand. She's at the intersection of coffee and mental illness and mental health, right? So she's got these wonderful products, very cute. I've got one here on the screen, but I've also got some here. These are little stickers that she sells. This one says self-love juice. This one says mental health matters. Let's see, bloom. This is a message that she has on several of them about brighter days are to come. They're just darling, aren't they? And they're easy to ship, right? Because they're lightweight. This one is a great message. You are stronger than you think. And, oh, I got this one because it says curly hair. Love that. And end the stigma. Aren't these great messages? So she's built this brand around these very simple products, very easy to ship. I love this one too. I don't speak Spanish, but even I know what that says. So she's got this great brand and these products that are really well made and beautiful, and they're easy to ship. And if you look at her shop, which is candidsociety.com, she has got hundreds and hundreds of positive reviews from happy customers. She's really hit on something. It started as a passion project, but it's blooming into something bigger because she's created something that people are responding to. It speaks to our heart. I've got a few other great stories here. This is Ooh La La Travel Agency, and they specialize in tours of Puerto Rico. They do something really wonderful. They try to uncover the hidden gems of Puerto Rico and make it very easy for people from the European market to come and visit. They are full service, and they really live on their values, which is, treat people with respect and kindness. It's a great, great company, a great agency. This is one of my favorites. This is a makeup company, and the founder is a mother-daughter team, and they are influencers on Instagram because of these amazing high-quality costume makeup kits. And what I love about this one, I chose this picture in particular because it says, be your own superhero. So the makeup can be used for every day, but the quality is good enough to do cosplay or costuming for special effects. It's great company. And then this one is an expat. This is Chelsea Ferret. She's from Trinidad and living in New York at the moment. She has family members who have eczema, who have skin problems. And so she's gone to great lengths to create a product that is, one, fantastic for people with eczema, but also just an amazing product. I use the lemon mango butter and the clear bar. I have two of her products that I used this morning. Really great product, but look at her packaging. One of the things that she noticed when she looked at the marketplace was that a lot of the products in the market weren't in beautiful packaging. It wasn't something that she wanted to have on her own kitchen sink counter in the bathroom. So she's made a product that's better than the competition and put it in packaging that's better than anything else out there on the market. These all started as passion projects, and every single one of them, they're doing it great. They're doing a great job. So I do want to talk about one more thing in the toolkit, and that is this this thing you may have heard of from the United States. I'm sure they say it in other parts of the world too. This idea of fail fast, right? And I think that's not a real good idea. I think it's not really healthy the way we talk about it. Everyone fails. It's just part of natural life that things work or don't work. We all make mistakes, but this idea of fail fast is actually, I think, not healthy, and I think it's really intimidating and keeps some women out of entrepreneurship. So although I think it's meant to encourage resilience and bounce back and keep going, what I think might be better is to talk about failure as it's just a bump in the road, and to talk about entrepreneurship as a cycle. It's a learning curve or a learning cycle that you're going to try things, you're going to experiment. Some things will work, some won't. You'll learn, and then you'll keep going. And instead of fail fast, which has that implication of speed, what I'd like to suggest instead is that we say recover with enthusiasm. Do whatever you can do when you hit that bump in the road to pick up and then go again. And I'm thinking that might be more helpful, because that fail fast, failure for some women is really frightening. For some women, it's really quite a thing to overcome all of the fear and doubts that they have to try and make the effort. And so I like the idea of recover with enthusiasm. I think it's more human in the way it's teaching. And I'll just mention this as an aside. I've taught in Puerto Rico quite a lot over the past few years, and I was there before the hurricane, and then was a lot of the programs I was involved in with Grupo Guayacán were suspended, or they changed where I was not involved. They continued, but I wasn't involved because I was coming from Atlanta. So when I got back down to Puerto Rico after the hurricane, the program manager, Caterina Sanchez, who was one of the speakers today on a panel, she said to me, you know, Brandy, things have changed since the hurricane, and I was just getting ready to do a one-day kickoff of a lean startup event for her. The program is called Enterprise by Grupo Guayacán. Great program. She said, things have changed, and these businesses, they need something different. And Caterina is very astute, and so I was sure she was right, but I just didn't know exactly what she meant. So we got started in the morning, and pretty quickly I figured out what she meant. In the prior years, the companies that were coming to the enterprise competition were much earlier stage, and some of them were very naive. Post-hurricane, the companies that had come into the program were often experienced business people who'd been doing the work for several years. They knew the marketplace. They were very knowledgeable about the business, but they needed to do something different because the hurricane had disrupted how they had been doing business. And so I did two things. One was I stopped talking to them like startups, and I started to treat them as the experienced business people that they were. That was first. And recognized that most of them needed to make a pivot. They needed to make some change to their business so that they could be successful. But then the other thing I was trying to figure out was, I didn't know the word for it, so I had to do some research. The word I was looking for, or the phrase, was trauma-informed teaching. That when you're working with people who have just been through a big disruption of life, and that could be anything from they've been through a natural disaster like a hurricane, or they've just had a big market disruption in the industry, or even something like a war has happened in their community. Whatever the case may be, the people have experienced a trauma as much as the business has suffered a disruption. And so my teaching style changed from being someone who kept everyone highly accountable to what I call trauma-informed teaching. That's the phrase. That was a big change for me to shift my thinking, but this has actually inspired a new practice area for us at Georgia Tech called Lean Recovery. And the idea is to be able to help when a community is in the recovery phase following a disaster or disruption, to help get those businesses back online as quickly as possible, to help preserve the economic base of the economy, or of the community, and then to try and restore a sense of normalcy back into the community for the people. So, okay, so this idea of self-awareness, this is huge. This is the thing that I don't know how to teach yet, and I'm hoping that you'll reach out to me with your ideas and your suggestions, because I've read articles and books about emotional intelligence and some of those things, but the self-awareness, it's not quite the same as maturity, because I see it in people of all ages. This is the thing that I don't have figured out about this toolkit, and I'm hoping that some of you will reach out to me and share your thoughts as well. I want to leave some time for Q&A, but I want to give a call to action, because what we've been talking about is really for entrepreneurs, lots of different kinds of businesses, but not everyone on this call is an entrepreneur. Some of you are professors, and some of you are policy makers. Some of you are economic development professionals. Some of you manage nonprofits. So I have a call to action for all of us as women, and that is based on this quote from W.E.B. Du Bois, who lived in Atlanta for quite a while. And he said, "To whom you give your money, you give your power." And that's a very powerful idea, right? And there's a lot of conversation in Atlanta even about buy Black, because the Black community is a tremendous part of the Atlanta community. And a dollar that goes into the Black community doesn't stay there very long. It gets spent out. In Atlanta, a dollar that goes into the Hispanic community stays there a little bit longer, but a dollar that goes into the white community stays there for far longer. And some of that is because of the situation around the businesses that are available and the kinds of businesses that are owned. So it's a more complicated setup than I'm expressing right now. But I like this comment from Du Bois. And so I want us to think about this. For myself, it's not easy to change how I spend some of my money, because my housing and my transportation, I don't have easy options to switch over into female-owned businesses. But I do have some other options. So I want to suggest that you think about half of the planet is women, and you should spend your money with her. Look for the business women. Look for the women in the traditional industries. Look for them in the places that you go every day. And look for the people who are keeping part of the craft or part of the culture alive. But also buy from her, the woman that's running a business that's a passion project or something that she loves. Support also the woman who's working on something cutting edge, who's working with technology. Spend your money, whether it's for your necessities or your free time, spend it with her. When you've got an opportunity to hire a woman, look for the woman entrepreneur, the female entrepreneur who's doing extraordinary work, and hire her. Spend your money with her. Young, old, whatever. Think about how you can do business with her and support her. That's your call to action, because this is how we change the world, by shifting the power where we want to see it. All right, those are my comments. I am going to stop sharing my screen, and would like to ask if there's any comments or questions, if there's anyone who wants to share an idea or a story, or if there's an entrepreneur, a female Caribbean entrepreneur that you want to highlight, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to see it in the chat. And if you are interested in seeing a copy of the slides, you can reach me at brandynagel.com. I'll put that also in the chat. And you can reach me at Georgia Institute of Technology. My email address there is brandy.nagel@innovate.gatech.edu. I'll put that screen up again so you can see that. Thank you so much for joining me. This was the first time I've talked publicly about this toolkit, and I'm very excited about it. And I'm looking forward to talking with people who are in this practice area, people who are practitioners who work with entrepreneurs and business owners, people who work in economic development and who support business owners. I would love to talk with you and get a better understanding of the entrepreneurs you're working with, the challenges that you see that they're facing. I think that what we can do is develop a toolkit that works for everyone. We can make something that is flexible and modular and human so that anyone can use it and all of us can benefit. Thanks for spending this time with me. I so appreciate it. Thank you, and I'll see you tomorrow at the rest of the conference.
¿Oyes eso? Son los rumores del cambio que trae el mar. Abre los ojos. El resplandor del sol asoma en todo el Caribe. La transformación se respira en las calles de todo el continente azul. El mundo nos pide a gritos que nos juntemos, que unamos nuestras voces. En tus manos tienes el poder de construir un futuro mejor, para ti, para ellas, para todas. Trasciende.